Justin, happy Thanksgiving. We chatted just a little bit here. I know we're both excited about this basketball team. Fans are too. A lot of questions and comments coming in on the InsideTheU.com message boards. We will get to those some talking points later in the show here, quickly coming up. But 5-0, Miami moves up to number 10 in the country in the AP Top 25 poll. First time they've been that high since 2017. So certainly a great team, a great start. They win there in the Bahamas, the 2 wins over Georgia, K-State. Justin, just initially 5-0, your thoughts on this team. What do you like about it? Just what's your impressions or anything surprising you as well?
Thanks for having me back, Chris. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And like you said, very exciting. Back in the top 10 here. Huge to win that tournament. I mean, it's tough to have it rolling this early on in the season and with some close games with FIU that maybe shouldn't have been that close to just overcome that, still get the win, and then go into the Bahamas, beat 2 great programs and big name teams. I think that was a big accomplishment. I'm going to go against the grain here and say that I actually still think there are some issues, and I still think that this team is not quite what the Final Four team was last year, which I know that's a high bar, but you know how it is. Everyone gets excited, and then it's time to say, oh, is this team better than last year? I personally don't think so, but I still think we're going to be really good. We are really good, and hopefully a really fun season ahead.
Justin, I'm with you on that one. And a lot of people, it's kind of like the last couple of years, I think, with Miami basketball as a program in general. I think, a casual fan or maybe someone that's still wrapped up into the football season likes Miami, but maybe not a huge college basketball fan. But a lot of questions always come to me of, is Miami actually good? And I know we did one of these things last year, Justin, like, are they actually good? They kind of want to know, or is it a little misleading? But look, this team is good. They can be really good. They can have a great season. And yeah, at this point, I wouldn't say that they're better than last year's team, but 5-0 start, can they be better? We can debate that as the season goes on. And, but they don't have to necessarily be better than last year to have a great year. And I think that's what's so fun about this year's team. My initial impressions are there's a couple things standing out. Again, I think the weaknesses with this team, I think, are still there. They're showing up a little bit more, which we will get to. But I think a couple things standing out in terms of some strengths. I think with Bensley Joseph, his production, I think that's been impressive so far. I figured, and yes, he's 5th on the team in scoring, which is what I expected given the other 4 guys on the team. But, he's a guy averaging about 14 points a game, and I don't think that'll keep up. But the point is, he's found his spots, and shots. It's not just that he did it in the opener against NIGIT, that kind of a opponent. He's kind of been a guy that they can get points from. And that's been impressive. I think Matthew Cleveland's efficiency, I had a lot of questions about that, and he's fitting in. He's not the same player as Jordan. He doesn't have to be. He can be his own self, but he's been good. And I think they've been fitting in well with that. In terms of the other guys, we both expected Wooga to take this jump. We'll talk more about Wooga in a little bit, but yeah, so I think that's been good. The FIU was disappointed seeing that so many points that they gave up in that one, but they bounced back against Georgia, a team that can, put up some points if they're at their best. And Miami shut that down and shut down K-State, a team that I thought they could lose to if K-State was on top of it. But Miami comes out of the gate, and they're just proven to be a really strong offensive group, and every head coach that they go up against is saying that after the game. It's great getting these guys comments after the game, hearing from other coaches. I always like to post that on the channel. It's not just Miami feedback after a game, but it's great hearing the other coaches. And basketball coaches are great. They love the game. They know how to speak it. They don't shy away from certain things. Jerome Tang at K-State admitted he felt like he messed up on his first half game plan against Miami, whether or not it would have made a difference. But, he just kind of looks back on decisions, and all coaches do. So those are my impressions so far. Justin, what's standing out? We'll get into the topics, what people want to talk about, but what is standing out to you of maybe, that they're not quite as good, or maybe some things that they just have to correct moving forward? Again, Miami's going to be off till November 28th next week at Kentucky, number 16 team in the country so far. Kentucky's got another game before they play Miami.
I think you nailed it. I think the play from Bensley Joseph and Matthew Cleveland has been really good and better than we both expected. And so for that reason, I think what I think is the issue could end up being corrected. But what I think of as a bit of an issue is missing Jordan Miller and how dynamic he was there's so much more attention on Norchad now, and you can see that his numbers are kind of suffering. I mean, he's not putting up the numbers he was. K-State, yes, but overall, it seems to be a little tougher for him this year. But with that being said, if Cleveland and Joseph, two guys that I wasn't sure would be as dominant as they have been, if they can continue, may draw more attention, and then we get to see Norchad have his way like he did last year. And like you said, I mean, it was the same thing last year. We just got to outscore everybody because the defense wasn't quite where it should be. We're seeing that again this year. It's tough. It's a long season, a lot of great opponents in the ACC. So I don't think we want to go into that stretch just all about offense. I think we got to take some time here and get the defense right.
Justin, let's get into it here. Again, these comments are from the InsideTheU.com message board, so I appreciate everybody jumping in on some topics and some questions. But let's discuss some of this. Let's start with the bench, Justin. This comment here, please give your comments on how many of the 4 bench players who see the floor will be comfortable in their roles when ACC games begin. And another comment too, just again with essentially young guys stepping up there as well, all the production coming from the starting 5. And again, I want to correct this. Joseph's right around 11.5 points. He was 14 going into the last game. So I want to get that correction in case people look up the stats and see it different. But thoughts on the bench and what you're seeing here. AJ Casey's leading the bench so far, 3.2 points per game. So not a lot of total production off the bench. But what are your thoughts on these 4 guys? They're playing 4. I expect that to continue. 9-man rotation with AJ Casey. You got Watson, also Nwako, and then as well as, with Keyshawn George in there too. So your thoughts on the bench there, Justin?
I think that it's not uncommon for Coach Larinaga in Miami to have a really strong starting 5, and sometimes that's all you're depending on. That's what we've seen in the past. But with that being said, I think that we do need some more production from the bench. I think you mentioned Coach is happy, or he's expressed that he's happy with the production he's getting, but I do think that we need some more. I mean, injuries, matchups, long season, and to just be getting 4 points, 5 points combined from the entire bench, that's going to be a problem. So I don't know if guys like Casey and Watson have made that huge jump that we were hoping they would make when we had these conversations in the preseason. It's still early. I still have faith that they will. I think Keyshawn George looks great. He just looks like a smooth basketball player, very skilled, does it all. But at the same time, the production's not there either with him. And that's another guy that preseason we were talking about would be a huge factor this year. So I think we need to see some more production from the bench. Again, long season. What's happened so far doesn't mean that's how it's going to remain. But so far, it's been all the starting 5, and it's a really good starting 5. But we gotta get some more off the bench, no doubt about it.
I think what makes it tough, and I absolutely, Coach likes to go with that starting 5, and you know that too, Justin, firsthand, seeing it. They're playing for him. I think what makes it difficult with the bench is, obviously you can't afford an injury, or if someone gets sick, that kind of thing. It kind of really is going to feel like it throws things off. I think also too, what makes it difficult is you can't play matchups as well. You can't feel like, oh, if we just go this, if we go big here, we're still going to be productive and maybe go off what other teams, because that's what's great about college basketball. Every team plays a little bit different. They look a little bit different. And I think as you get into ACC play, now Miami can roll out, these are our 5, this is who we are. But I think what can make things a little bit difficult is people will understand exactly who Miami is. If you can just kind of slow them down offensively, it could just make them a little bit more difficult to guard. Also, conversely, Miami's defensively. We've talked so much about how they play small, and they've been so effective of that the last 2 years. But and I know this is what fans say, oh, they ran up against UConn, and certainly you see how that looked, and it doesn't look good when Miami gets beat by being undersized. It's not a good look because it's all layups. It's like, how can we even stop these guys? But Miami's been so well. And there's some teams that obviously, Duke and North Carolina, I think if we're looking at the ACC looking ahead, certainly the big guys they have there in Baycott and Filipowski, how is that going to match up? Can you go big? Jim has kind of explored a little bit of some big stuff, maybe playing a couple bigs, but still Omier at the 5. You kind of really are going with Casey there, or Nwako. You can kind of mix it up, but this is something that maybe to watch for in these non-conference games. Coach mentioned to me after a game when I asked him about something, he said he was thinking about going with 3 bigs, and essentially that would be Cleveland at the 3, bringing in a Casey, and going with Omier there. But he felt like the 3 guards are playing so well, it's hard to do that. But I think that might be something to look for. And in terms of, this all goes to the bench. And I think one thing too with the bench, and I've said this too before on maybe some takeaways, it's not like the NBA where you're rolling out 4 or 5 bench players all on the court at one time together, and you need a second unit, so to speak, to really ignite the team or still score. So these guys coming off the bench, they're more, still in some secondary roles when they're playing with the starters. They might be the only bench guy or 2 bench guys and 3 starters, but still you want to make sure that you're providing something productive, because the starter, you're looking at the numbers here, everybody all but one is shooting over 50% from the floor. That's not sustainable for the season. So sometimes guys are not going to have it, and the bench, that's why you need the bench to step up. Justin, let's go to the next question here. NBA comp for Wooga Poplar. I think that's a great question. It's fun because he looks to be Miami's next NBA player. It just, in saying that, recently, I want to write this down. So I was at the UCF game, been at all the home games so far, but NBA scouts from the Heat, Knicks, Bucks, and Jazz were expected to be there. I saw the Heat scouts at Glenn Rice, Bob McAdoo were there in attendance. I didn't see the other teams, but they were expected to be there. And I know, talking to other people, Wooga is the guy that they're here to see. And do you have an NBA comp? I thought that was interesting. Comps are always hard, but do you have someone in mind? Maybe even an umbrella of what Wooga could be?
Yeah, so got to give credit because I didn't come up with it, but Eric Wynn, who is a former manager with the team, and he now works with me in the wealth management business. He's a diehard Celtics fan, and he nailed it. He said Wooga is just like Jaylen Brown, and I really agree with that one. Phenomenal player, able to hit these shots. I mean, it maybe doesn't look like the most silky smooth shot, but they're going in at a high percentage. But I still think he's having a little bit of trouble handling the ball and some silly turnovers. We'll see, but definitely took that jump that we thought he would take. And I don't know, I just see a lot of Jaylen Brown. I thought that was a good comparison. How about you?
I have 5 names here. And again, these are more like umbrella stuff. And there's 4 names you're going to know. There's one that that might surprise people, but maybe, obviously we see him down here with the Heat with Jimmy Butler and DeMar DeRozan, another guy. If you're talking about, again, it's not that Wooga can be those 2 guys. It's almost impossible to reach some of these guys, these names, but more of like the umbrella of what they are. Either with some size stuff. Those were 2 names that passed to me. A couple other ones I kind of thought of on my own. Karis LeVert, if you remember him, he's a guy, you're kind of looking at that 6'5", 190, 200 range that Wooga's in. And when you're looking at some NBA guards, a lot of those guys are ball handlers or were ball handlers at some level of their basketball careers. And I think that's the thing with Wooga. He's not really the ball handler, distributor. Right now, assist rate right at 9 right now. That's low. That's not real high. Point guards are usually in the 20s, just to kind of give you a comparison. So he's not distributing for others. That's just not his game right now, but it's the pull-ups and the three-point shooting. Zach LaVine, he was such an attacking guy, athletically younger in his career. Now, he's still that spot-up guy, or he can shoot threes the way he shoots now again. But here's the guy, believe it or not, I watched him. I really liked him in college. Marshawn Brooks, back in 2011, played for Providence. So he was a 1st-round pick. But just that guard that can score, and shoot at mid-range threes, kind of a smooth guy at time, the way he kind of moves around. We see that in Wooga. I know the shot making, as you mentioned, with the Jaylen Brown. So those are 5 names I came up with, but certainly exciting to see. It'll be exciting to see how his game kind of continues to grow. The Kentucky game, and we're going to get all into that later on, but with what happened at UConn, I'm sure, in that Final Four game, I'm sure Wooga's looking at this as a national spotlight game that he wants to shine in because of what happened. And I haven't talked to him about it, but I can only imagine. So yeah, just any more thoughts on Wooga, and then we'll kind of go to the next one here.
Yeah, I think those are all great comparisons. to some degree, like you said, the umbrella. I think they all have similar, not all, but at least like Zach LaVine, Karis LeVert, Jaylen Brown, just the lack of ball handling or the issues with the ball handling and the distributing, yet just such explosive, dynamic scorers, athletic slashers. So I see a little bit of all of those with Wooga.
Miami ranks 101st in defensive efficiency so far through 5 games. Question is great here. With the defense not being what the offense is, offense right now 11th, do you think that's sustainable to keep winning? And is there anything to do about the rebounding? We'll get into rebound, but let's just stick with defense. Just your thoughts. Basically, can they still win games if the defensive metrics are what they are and what they have been?
I would normally say no, I don't think it's sustainable and it needs to be corrected ASAP. But coming off of last year, I don't know what the numbers were, how they compare to those that you just mentioned. But if off the top of my head, I do remember the defense being kind of similar last year, and they went to the final.
99th, Justin. I just looked here. 99th is what they finished as a season. So,
okay.
Yeah, 102 right now. I had the numbers wrong. 9th in offense right now. 100 must just update, but 102nd in defense right now.
Okay, so then point proven that I would say no, but if we're going off of last year, they showed us that they could do it last year. However, I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think we should strive to be this way. So hopefully, Coach L and the rest of the staff can get the defense right.
I think one of the things they did last year so well was kind of the turnovers. That they were able to kind of get turnovers and get out and run, make things a little bit uncomfortable. Look, they're an offensive team. That's just what they are. That's their strength. Every college team has strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, I think it will be tough. I think, is it sustainable? Essentially, we're thinking of this team as, can they win the ACC? We still expect them to be a good team, be an NCAA tournament team. It's just at what level. And I think that's what's great about this team, the way we're viewing them. It's not, it's with high expectations. So when we say, can they win? It's essentially, can they right now, number 10 in the country, can they be essentially a top 10 team with how they are performing defensively? It's hard to say yes with that because you've got to be good defensively. That's what we know. Defense and rebounding. Everyone knows that with basketball. They're kind of defying it right now. But I think when you run up against teams, I think we're going to see against Kentucky, and they certainly will provide plenty of threats scoring the ball. And if Miami can't defend them, and the thing with defense, coaches will always tell you defense travels, and to no matter where you're at, defense doesn't slump essentially. Whereas shooting, can you expect to always be on top of it? And I think that's why coaches are a little bit more hesitant or uncomfortable when their defensive numbers aren't there. So I think that'll be something to watch for. They're not going to just get bigger overnight or anything like that, but I think just kind of creating turnovers will be something. The trapping, I think that will start to come up. I think we've seen some of it so far, but I think that can continue to get better as the season goes on, as Matthew Cleveland gets more reps there, as Bensley Joseph more reps with this group of guys. I think just kind of understanding roles there. I think that's maybe something that they can do and kind of get better defensively. But what makes it so hard for other teams is keeping up with Miami. And I think in a way their offense puts pressure on other teams' offenses to keep up, and I think you could kind of force if Miami's making a bunch of shots, it kind of makes it harder for the other team, and maybe they're going to press a little bit, so that can help their defensive numbers in that sense too. Let's keep it moving. Justin, rebounding. That's the other thing. Offensive rebounding, the numbers aren't good. They're allowing 14 offensive rebounds per game. That's a very high number, especially given the opponents that they've played. Ranks 339th in the country. Last year, in comparison, it was 9.8. They ranked 198. So that's something that I guess the question is kind of the similar lines is that sustainable? Can that be corrected? The question there, want to make sure I get it right. But yeah, just about with the rebounds. What do you think there with the amount of rebounds they're giving up?
I don't think that's sustainable. I think they got to do better there. Hopefully, Nwoko and maybe Casey and Watson off the bench. Definitely, maybe it's George. They got to get some help. They got to rebound the ball better. And just to correct myself, speaking of rebounding and Norchad, I know I mentioned earlier, like that he's struggling a bit. I mean, his numbers are showing he's still having a great year. He's not struggling, but just seems a lot harder to do the things this year versus last year. It seemed to come to him a lot more. So I think that he needs some help down low. I'm looking at his numbers right now. He's averaging 9 rebounds versus 10 and 12 the 2 years before that. So someone else has to step up. It's got to be a team effort. All 5 guys boxing out. But no, I think the rebounding is an issue, and I don't think that one's sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be an issue kind of all season long. And I'm looking at the schedule. I completely got it wrong. So there's going to be 6 non-conference games. They actually have Notre Dame after the Kentucky game, conference game, ACC opponent there, December 2nd. So they're going to play one more non-conference, and then they're going to play Notre Dame. They'll get one in, and they'll finish up their non-conference. So, yeah, I think it's tough because when you play better teams, giving them more opportunities is tough, and the second chance opportunities. I think you can see Miami, we've already seen these other teams that they've played putting up big numbers, and really it's been every opponent, regardless of their size. And even if, it's not like, they're going up against a big team and it was just a 1-game sample size. Kind of each game, it's been an issue. And I think that's going to be difficult to overcome. Now, Kentucky's going to play small like Miami. They're going to line up essentially the same in terms of height because Kentucky's got their big guys out. So that's going to be fun to watch. Again, get more into the Kentucky game. But the offensive rebound, I think Matthew Cleveland, I think that we saw some good rebounding from Jordan Miller at that spot last year. I think Matthew Cleveland is rebounding in his career. I think he can get some good numbers there. It's great to see Wooga get 11 the other day, but I think, it's got to be a constant thing. And I know, the 2 guards, they're smaller up front with Bensley and Nigel, and coach would like to see them. I know the way he's talked about their guard, they're smaller guards in the past, provide something there. And it's got to be a point of emphasis. And it's hard because sometimes, you know how it is, Justin, you want to leak out, you hope someone else gets a rebound and you want to push it. So sometimes the guards will get out there on the sidelines there, wait for some outlet passes to get up court and get transition buckets. That's a lot of fun. Miami does well with that, but first you got to corral the defensive rebound. So that'll just be something I think they're going to work. They have to work on it. Coach knows that it's something that they don't want to keep up. So that'll be something. And I think it's something that can be, I think, honestly, Justin, I think we could be sitting here in March and still talking about it. I think it's going to be something that they just don't want to get overwhelmed with. I think it can be something because, again, this team does have weaknesses. It's just you don't want to get exposed, and you still want to try to, improve on your weaknesses and not let it be a complete weakness that overwhelms your strengths. Okay, Justin, any final thoughts that you're thinking here with this team and where they're at here?
I mean, I think that it's exciting. We're 5-0, top 10, but I think that it's also exciting because there's a lot of room for growth and room to get better before we get into the thick of it. So we'll see. We'll see how things unfold. Like we talked about in the beginning, I mean, a lot of bright spots for sure. I think some of the issues as far as the rebounding and the bench production, those are some of Coach L's strengths. I mean, I remember from back in the day and just watching ever since. I mean, when he can get them to rebound, he can bring out that bubble in practice and have the guys rebound for an hour if that's what it takes. So I think he'll get it right. And I think these guys at some point off the bench, they're going to have to step into some bigger roles. So I'm confident that they'll get it right. But it's got to start soon.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll put that bubble on the rim and then let DJ shoot it and just go, whether it's 3-on-3 or 2-on-2 type rebounds, one-on, whatever this drills he wants to do. I think that'll be something to watch for. Looking forward to getting out at practice, but certainly, again, we're touching on some things that fans had questions about. A lot of positives with this team. They're a lot of fun to watch offensively. Nigel Pack going off, it was a lot of fun. He could just shoot it with the best of them, off to a slow start, but can erupt. And I think that's the thing with all 5 of their guys. All of them can score a bunch of points. And even Bensley, we're seeing that he can put up some points efficiently as well. So appreciate it, Justin. Again, happy Thanksgiving, and appreciate everybody jumping in on the comments and watching the show. So thanks for your support and take care.
Thanks, Chris. See you soon.